So we live pretty south of the border, and by that I mean the less restricted border between the United States and Canada. Very, very far away from hockey culture, so I'm sure that this is news to some of you guys that the NHL should be in season right now and isn't in season. Very devastating to me, probably not to any of you guys. So I've been watching hockey my entire life. I was born in Pittsburgh, like in the dead center of hockey town, and I've been playing hockey for a lot of my life. Of course, not ice hockey because there's not any ice hockey out here. And I feel like this is related to you guys well because a lot of you guys are in other sports. Last year we had the NFL lockout. This year we had the referee lockout. The NBA had a labor dispute recently as well. So this is a very commonly occurring thing within sports, in the NHL especially. So today I will discuss the effects of the lockout from the league perspective, from the players' perspective, and from the fans' perspective. And I will also illustrate that through examples from past lockouts and labor disputes that the NHL has had. So obviously, there's a lockout going on. The empty stick back. And the one thing that really makes it bad for the NHL is the fact that already its influence as compared to the other major sports in the United States is absolutely nothing. Right here, the NFL already makes $9 billion a year. That's in 2010, so it's gone up since then. And the NHL is all the way down here with 2.7. And within the past 20 years, and that also being the term in office for the current commissioner of the NHL, Gary Bettman, there's been 3 lockouts, and one in 1994, and one in 2003, and the one this year. And it's also led to teams having to lay off office jobs this year. And with other years, there was also teams that folded because of the lockouts, because they lose so much money. Because in areas like Florida and in Nashville, where there's no ice, there's no hockey culture, just like down here in Anaheim or Fullerton, there's the money gets lost right away as soon as a lockout happens. There's nothing to fall back on with the Canadian teams. So, and of course, as with any lockout, the players get affected, and with the NHL especially, because the NHL and hockey is a largely international sport, and while we may not see it here up in Canada and in Europe, hockey is becoming very big. So here we have 3 very star players of the NHL who at the beginning of the lockout all signed to Russian leagues. It's Malkin, Ovechkin, and Gonchar. And the issue isn't that they signed to the teams, it's that the lockouts have created an atmosphere of distrust within the players. And these 3 players, they signed to the Russian league, the Continental Hockey League, at the beginning of October. And so far they have declined any comments as to whether they might or might not return, whether or not the NHL does resume, which makes me very sad because this is my favorite player ever. And another problem with the lockout is that players don't get paid during the lockout. And NHL has one of the largest economic indifferences as opposed to any other sport, whereas the players I showed you on the screen get paid anywhere up to $124 million, where some third-line forwards don't even get paid $1 million per year. So there's a big difference within it, and lots of people are losing a lot of money. And of course, the most important thing as with any sport is the fans. And the best part about hockey is that the fan base is spreading. Other teams are starting to win now. Just like Vancouver here, it's been very built up. Other teams are starting to win, and other teams are starting to go to the playoffs. Recently, so far, we've had every team in the NHL, for the first time in NHL history, go to the playoffs and have a playoff run. And that includes warm weather teams like Anaheim, Los Angeles Kings, they won last year. And that's making the fan base spread, which is making money come in. But as like 2004, as soon as a warm weather team got to the finals, we had a lockout, and that doesn't create much confidence for fans that just joined in. Fans that all the people that started beginning to like the Los Angeles Kings as they won a Stanley Cup, they're not going to have the patience to sit around for a lockout to get resumed to go back to hockey. They're just going to go back to basketball or whatever else they watch. So it's affecting local economies like here in Vancouver. It's also affecting other local economies like small towns in Canada like Edmonton that have very strong hockey teams but not very much else in their city. And also Newark, New Jersey that houses the New Jersey Devils, where the Senators actually sent a letter to the NHL asking them to end the lockout. And it also affects the season ticket holders, because they can't get games that they pay for, and that in turn affects the teams because then they have to reimburse season ticket holders. And the NHL, being the sport with as little influence as it is, has already begun to try to reimburse with interest to people just to keep them around, just to keep the fans around. So, in conclusion, I hope you guys understand a little bit more about the effects of the NHL lockout and how it can communicate to other lockouts and other lockouts within sports industries. And I hope that when it does come back, you guys all start to gain a little bit of interest to watch some hockey because you heard me talk about it. You can come talk to me about it. We'll hang out and be hockey nerds and yeah, and show them why they should keep playing hockey. Thank you.
Do you have YouTube working here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I can use that in the visual.
You should be able to. Okay, Greg, what did you think?
I liked it. He's really, I don't want to say informal, but he's kind of relaxed up there. Or he seems relaxed, so it translates to us so we can chill out a little bit. The PowerPoint was good. He went to blank slides when we didn't need to see anything else. I think that was a little distracting because he kept putting the note cards in his pocket and taking them back out. So it would take me a little bit out of what he was talking about. The opening was pretty neat. As in, even though NHL was in the lockout, I didn't care. No offense. But now that he kind of gave some interesting stuff about it, I'm like, hey, move money around, build the economy. But it was pretty neat, informative. Probably won't watch it, but at least I know about it now.
All right. Well, I thought that the opening was fine. There's a little bit of humor there. You do try to create a little bit of justification because you're talking about the economic impact during the speech. I think you could develop that a little bit more to give us even more reason, even though, like you said, a lot of fans here in Southern California, they're scattered. Although there are hockey fans. I do find them every once in a while. See, they're in my class. I thought that you could explain a little bit more about what is going on with the lockout. I know that's not really the purpose of the speech, but without some context, it doesn't mean very much to us. So I think you need to give us a little bit more background about what's going on with the lockout, why there's a dispute, what the problem is with the owners and the players and all that kind of stuff. Keep it relatively short, but give us some context for the impact that you're talking about. I thought I was going to get a few more comparisons to other sports lockouts and previous NHL lockouts. You did mention, for instance, in the past that franchises have even closed as a result of lockouts, and I was going, okay, well, which franchises were those? I think you may have had a slide that suggested what they were, but that came up late, and I'm not sure. So all those three franchises that you listed, they don't exist anymore. Is that correct?
One of them.
One of them. Okay, so like I said, I think you could use a little bit more information about the impact on those past lockouts. And you mentioned the one. You might also tell us if there are franchises, for instance, that are in financially tough situations that might not be able to weather, warm weather, a lockout. And I think that would add a little bit more energy to our reason for listening to this. I thought you had pretty good information in the presentation. Organizationally, I'm not sure that there was a very clear structure. I thought you had a pretty good preview, but in the body of the speech, I didn't really hear particular signposts or know why I was going from one piece of information to the next. The closest thing that I had to anything creating structure was the visuals that you were showing, and I thought that they worked okay. The visuals were fine. There were a couple places where you provided some good information for us. Like I said, it felt like the one slide seemed a little out of order in the presentation, probably a practicing sort of thing. Speaking of practice, a couple of things that you'll work on. We're not fretting that much about the delivery issues right now, but when you watch back, you'll see a couple of things. You have a tendency to speak sideways and look at the screen while you're giving the speech. Not all the time, but a lot of times when you're making the transitions, you turn to the screen and start talking.